They were born into power, privilege, and a legacy drenched in blood. As World War II raged, they lived in the shadows of men who shaped history in the most horrifying ways. But when the Third Reich crumbled, their world collapsed overnight. What happened to them? Were they hunted, shunned, or welcomed into a new life? Did they embrace their father's dark past, or spend their lives trying to escape it? Some vanished, others changed their names. A few even tried to atone for sins that were never their own. Their stories are shocking, tragic, and sometimes unbelievable. Stay until the end, and let me know in the comments. Do you think the sins of the fathers should define their children? She remained a staunch supporter of him until her death in 2018. Heinrich Himmler had an undeniable fondness for his daughter Gudrun, ensuring that she was always close to him. He arranged for her to be flown regularly from Munich, where she lived with her mother, to his offices in Berlin. Despite the chaos and brutality of war, Himmler always made time for his beloved daughter, maintaining constant communication through daily phone calls whenever she was home and sending affectionate letters every single week. Heinrich had a special name for her, Pupi, a childhood nickname that reflected his deep affection. He even brought her along to official functions, allowing her to witness the inner workings of the Nazi regime. Throughout her life, Gudrun fiercely rejected the common belief that her father had taken his own life with a cyanide capsule after being captured. Instead, she insisted that he had been assassinated, a theory she held onto until her final days. After the war, both Gudrun and her mother were captured by American forces. They were detained in various camps across Italy, France, and Germany, enduring the hardships of life as prisoners. Eventually, they were taken to Nuremberg, where they were summoned to testify in the war crime trials. Following months of uncertainty, they were finally released in November 1946. Unlike many others who sought to distance themselves from their Nazi lineage, Gudrun remained unwavering in her loyalty. She dedicated her entire life to preserving her father's name and legacy. She played a key role in Stille Hilfe, Silent Help, a secretive organization designed to provide financial aid, legal support, and shelter to arrested, condemned, or fugitive former SS members. Her actions proved her undying devotion to the Nazi cause, making her one of the most controversial figures among the children of Nazi leaders. Martin Bormann Jr., the eldest son of Nazi Party official Martin Bormann, lived a life overshadowed by the heavy burden of his father's crimes. Born on April 14, 1930, he was just a child when his father rose to power within Hitler's inner circle. As the war raged, young Bormann was shielded from the true horrors of the Nazi regime. But after the war ended, the truth of his father's atrocities came crashing down on him. It was a revelation that shattered everything he thought he knew, leading him on a lifelong journey of remorse and redemption. Unlike some of the other children of Nazi leaders, Bormann Jr. did everything he could to distance himself from his father's ideology. He converted to Catholicism and dedicated his life to the Church, hoping to atone for the sins of his father. Seeking to make a difference in the world, he spent years as a missionary in the Congo and Cameroon, helping those in need. However, in 2011, a dark cloud overshadowed his past. A former student came forward with allegations that Bormann Jr. had abused him as a child, claiming the incident took place when he was only 12 years old, back in the early 1960s. Further accusations surfaced, with multiple individuals stating that he had subjected students to extreme physical violence. By the time these allegations gained widespread attention, Bormann Jr. was suffering from dementia, making him unable or unwilling to respond to the claims. Though no legal action was ever taken against him, an independent commission investigating abuse within the Catholic Church in Austria awarded the accuser financial compensation. The accusations left a stain on his later years, raising questions about whether the son of one of Hitler's most powerful men had truly escaped the darkness of his father's past. Nicholas Frank. Nicholas Frank, the son of infamous Nazi war criminal Hans Frank, spent his entire adult life grappling with the horrors of his father's legacy. Born in 1939, he was too young to comprehend the scale of the atrocities committed during the Holocaust. But as he grew older, the weight of his father's crimes became an unbearable burden. Hans Frank, known as the Butcher of Poland, was Hitler's personal lawyer and later became the Governor-General of occupied Poland, overseeing some of the most brutal policies of the Nazi regime. Unlike many of the other children of Nazi CDU officials, Nicholas took a drastically different path. Instead of hiding or defending his father's memory, he confronted it head-on. He made it his mission to understand the monstrous acts his father committed and to publicly denounce them. Nicholas wrote several books, including In the Shadow of the Reich, in which he exposed the horrors of his father's crimes and detailed the lasting impact they had on him. Unlike others who tried to excuse or minimize their family's past, Nicholas was relentless in his condemnation. He saw his father not just as a Nazi leader, but as a mass murderer who had destroyed countless lives. His work was not just about understanding history, it was about ensuring that the world never forgot. His raw honesty and brutal self-examination set him apart. Through public speeches, interviews, and writings, he has become a powerful voice in Holocaust education. By sharing his painful journey, he provides a rare and deeply personal perspective on the lingering effects of one of history's darkest chapters. His story serves as a stark reminder that the sins of the past must never be forgotten, and that even those born into evil can choose a different path. These are the children of Nazi leaders, some who clung to the past, some who sought redemption, and others who spent their lives trying to escape their father's shadows. Their stories are complex, emotional, and often shocking. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible historical stories like this. Edda Göring was the only child of Hermann Göring and his second wife, actress Emmy Sonnemann. As the daughter of one of Hitler's closest confidants, she was born into privilege just before the outbreak of World War II. Her early years were spent primarily with her mother at Karenhall, the Grand Göring family estate, where she was shielded from the brutal realities of her father's role in the Nazi regime. Edda's childhood was marked by extravagance, as she was often showcased at public events, a carefully crafted image meant to portray the Nazi leadership as devoted family men. She received numerous valuable gifts, including a painting by Lucas Cranach the Elder, Madonna and Child, a symbol of the wealth her father had amassed through looting art across Europe. As the war neared its devastating conclusion, she and her mother retreated to their mountain home in Salzburg, near Berchtesgaden, as chaos engulfed the Reich. The end of the war signaled the collapse of the Göring family's privileged existence. Hermann Göring was sentenced to death at the Nuremberg trials for war crimes, but managed to escape the gallows by committing suicide. His death left Edda with a name forever tied to one of history's most notorious figures, a legacy she spent her life grappling with. Despite this burden, Edda attempted to maintain a private life, rarely making public statements about her father. In private, however, she continued to believe in his character. The 1950s and 1960s saw her embroiled in long legal battles over the valuable gifts she had received as a child, including the disputed Madonna and Child painting. many of which she ultimately lost. Unlike other children of prominent Nazis, such as Gudrun Himmler or Albert Speer Jr., who engaged in public discussions about their fathers, Edda largely remained silent. However, in a rare interview given in 1986 on Swedish television, she broke her silence to express deep affection for both of her parents. Her words reignited debate about the lingering loyalty of Nazi descendants. She passed away in 2018, her life forever overshadowed by the actions of her infamous father. Rolf Mengele, the son of the infamous Nazi doctor Josef Mengele, has spent much of his life haunted by his father's monstrous legacy. Born on March 16, 1944, Rolf grew up far removed from the concentration camps where his father conducted horrific medical experiments on prisoners, earning him the infamous title of the Angel of Death. Rolf's early years were filled with deception. He was led to believe that his father had been a war hero, an illusion that shattered when he reached adolescence and learned the horrifying truth. The weight of his surname became an unbearable burden. Seeking to forge his own path, Rolf pursued a law degree and later became a corporate attorney, determined to distance himself from the atrocities linked to his father's name. Following the war, Josef Mengele fled to South America, evading capture. This left Rolf behind, growing up in post-war Germany without a father figure. As Nazi hunters scoured the globe searching for Mengele, suspicions arose that Rolf might be in secret communication with him. These suspicions were not unfounded. In 1977, Rolf made the life-altering decision to travel to South America and confront his father. What he found was a man entirely unrepentant for his crimes. Josef Mengele, living under an assumed identity, attempted to justify his actions at Auschwitz, showing no signs of guilt or remorse. For Rolf, it was a sickening realization. The father he had once been led to admire was, in reality, one of history's most reviled war criminals. Despite his revulsion, Rolf could not bring himself to betray his father. He chose to remain silent about his whereabouts, allowing Mengele to evade justice. The infamous doctor would later die in 1979, drowning off the coast of Brazil. After their final encounter, Rolf resolved to change his name and sever all ties with his past, striving to live a life untainted by the horrors his father had unleashed upon the world. The legacies of these individuals remain a chilling reminder of how history's darkest figures have left an inescapable mark on future generations. What are your thoughts on the fate of these Nazi descendants? Comment below, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more historical deep dives. It is speculated that he is now a family man and a retired attorney leading a tranquil existence in Germany. Wolf Hess was the son of Rudolf Hess, a high-ranking official in Nazi Germany and one of Hitler's closest confidants. As a prominent member of the Nazi Party, Rudolf Hess served as deputy Führer from 1933 until 1941, when he embarked on a daring solo flight to Scotland in an attempt to negotiate peace with Britain. However, his mission was a failure. He was immediately captured by British forces and imprisoned for the remainder of the war. After the war, Hess was put on trial at Nuremberg. Although he was spared the death penalty, he was sentenced to life imprisonment in Spandau prison, where he remained in solitary confinement for decades. His life ended in 1987, at the age of 93, in what was officially ruled a suicide, though his son, Wolf Hess, fervently contested this claim, insisting that his father had been murdered by his British captors. Unlike many other children of Nazi leaders who distanced themselves from their father's legacies, Wolf Hess spent his life as a staunch defender of his father's name. He devoted years to attempting to reshape the public perception of Rudolf Hess, portraying him not as a war criminal, but as a man who was simply carrying out his duty during the turbulent years of the Nazi regime. During his teenage years, while his father was in captivity, Wolf frequently visited him, strengthening the bond between them. But his efforts went far beyond family visits. In the 1950s, Wolf founded the Committee to Free Rudolf Hess, gathering thousands of supporters, including influential figures in German politics, all advocating for his father's release. He also authored numerous books arguing that Hess should be remembered as a German patriot rather than a convicted criminal. Despite his unwavering efforts, Wolf never succeeded in rehabilitating his father's public image. He passed away in 2001, having spent his life dedicated to defending a legacy that many sought to forget. Albert Speer, Jr. Albert Speer, Jr. was born on July 29, 1934, in Berlin, just days before Adolf Hitler was officially declared Führer of Germany. His early years were spent in Berchtesgaden, a picturesque alpine village where Hitler had his mountain retreat. There are archival films from the 1930s showing young Albert playing on the terrace of Hitler's villa, under the watchful gaze of the dictator himself. His father, Albert Speer Sr., was Hitler's chief architect and later became Germany's Minister of Armaments. Using his exceptional organizational skills, Speer Sr. oversaw Germany's wartime production, relying heavily on forced labor, a fact that prolonged the war and led to countless human rights abuses. After the war, Speer Sr. was convicted at Nuremberg and sentenced to 20 years in prison. He later became one of the few high-ranking Nazis to publicly express remorse for his role in the atrocities of the regime. Following his father's imprisonment, the Speer family sought refuge with Albert Jr.'s grandparents in Heidelberg. During this time, young Albert struggled emotionally, developing a severe stutter, a condition that he later managed to overcome. He initially trained as a carpenter before deciding to follow in his father's footsteps and pursue a career in architecture. Despite his professional path, Albert Jr. was adamant that his choice had nothing to do with his father. In a 2010 interview with Süddeutsche Zeitung, he made it clear that he had spent his entire life trying to separate himself from his father's legacy. "I have tried my whole life to distance myself," he said, refusing to discuss his father further. Albert Speer Jr. went on to become a successful architect, designing urban projects worldwide, including in China and the Middle East. Unlike many children of Nazi leaders, he did not seek the public spotlight, preferring to focus on his career. He passed away at his home in Frankfurt on September 15, 2017, at the age of 83. And that concludes our video. We hope you found it insightful and engaging. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you watching from? Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and help us appease the gods of the algorithm. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.